Greetings, everybody. This is Jeremy Osborne from Aquent Gymnasium, and I'm here with Michael Vanyo, who will be referred to as Vanyo for the rest of this tutorial. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Yourself?
Doing well. So this, by the way, is part 2 of a 2-part series on accessibility and specific web accessibility. For those of you who saw the first part, this is a quick review, that was all about automated testing, and we used a system called Wave, which is a plugin that you can use for Chrome or Firefox that allows you to do this kind of automatic checking of a page for issues. Today we're doing what we'll call manual testing, which is really about humans and figuring out what about a web page can be improved based on some common guidelines, best practices, and so forth. Did I get that right? Is that about right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And specifically, we're going to be looking at these 4 things I'm looking at the screen. So take it away. Like, what are we going to be talking about?
All right. So the first thing is just kind of the text, the alt text for images. As you mentioned before with the Wave extension, they can find if it's missing or not, but it doesn't know about the details of the content.
Okay.
Second of all is the default styling of the outline focus. And we'll see that more later on, the default, how it looks, and how to improve it. Third one will be essentially skip navigational links, and we'll go deeper into that, of what they are and why they're necessary for a web page. And the last, but definitely not least, would be dealing with drop-down menus, a very common element in many websites.
Okay, cool. I am excited. So let's start with, in the last, if I remember correctly, in the part 1, we figured out that these images were missing some alt tags, and so we added them in, but maybe that's not all we need to do.
Yeah, I mean, we added text, we got the alerts and errors kind of disappearing from our testing tool.
Mm-hmm.
But now, once as you mentioned before, we're getting into the human element here and really trying to understand what these images are. And the purpose of alt texts are to describe what the image is for people who can't see it or might have images disabled. So if we look at this web page, and this is the kind of same page we were working on before. If you look at the image here, we can see that, okay, it's portfolio image 1. Now, as the creator of the site, that makes sense to me. That, for me, that's my first portfolio image. Mm-hmm. This makes sense. But that's in the context of me, nobody else. And you have to get into the mindset of a new user visiting your site, and they don't know what this image is. If they don't see it, and all they see is alt text, they'll just see portfolio image 1. What does that mean?
Right. So not super helpful.
No. So, I mean, we actually have some descriptions right below, and we can actually use these for the alt text. So I'm going to go into the home page here, and you can see here, through the code, I can say, okay, RoboHead website. Okay, here. So we could just use that. So we can just say, maybe RoboHead website, and it's a screenshot, right? So it's an image of this website. And, we can continue that pattern with the other ones as well. And this makes it more unique. And, your tool that you're using to find accessibility issues won't complain that, hey, they're all the same alt text. Mm-hmm. They are actually different images here.
Cool. And there's also kind of this degree, too, and this is where some of the subjectivity comes in, as to how deep down the rabbit hole you go and how much explanation you go. One thing I know for sure you don't want to do is, I've seen some folks who kind of almost like hack the system, and they put things in alt tags that they really shouldn't. I mean, it's really just describing what the image is. So for like that vitamin T one, for example, the one in the middle, could you, in theory, just describe okay, there's a woman looking at a computer screen or something like that? Would that be valid?
You could, but I
Okay.
mean, you got to think about the context, right? Is it
Right.
relevant for the user to know that there's a woman on the screen?
True. True.
You
Right.
know, your main goal is this is a website I worked on. It's the vitamin T website.
Right.
So, you know, and me just saying that now, you can actually say it's a vitamin T website screenshot,
Got it.
right?
Yep.
Just add a bit more. And it's quick, concise, straight to the point.
So maybe you could add like homepage. Would that be something that would?
Yeah, you
Okay.
could do vitamin T homepage website screenshot, maybe not even have screenshot.
Okay.
So it, you know, it's kind of tying into the whole subjectivity of this,
Yep.
that you really have to think through what your users will read for the
Right.
alt text.
Awesome. I think that's actually, that's a perfect lesson. And so, we'll probably see some very similar themes as we move ahead, right? Like, so what's next?
So the next thing we're going to talk about is the outline. So as you saw, is kind of navigating through this outline here, the focus. Now here, it might not be clear. Let me see if I can find a spot. Here we go. So this is the default styling of the focus. So when this element is focused, it has this like kind of blurry blue, outline around it. And this is default to Chrome. The other browsers might have a slightly different styling to it.
And just to be clear, yeah, sorry. So just to be clear, like you're getting there by just doing what? Hitting your tab key, right?
That is exactly right. So hitting my tab key, even if I sometimes click on it, some browsers will actually have a focus around it. But the way I'm doing it, yes, that is correct. I am using the tab key. So shift tab will go back, just tabbing will go forward.
Okay.
And it is just essentially navigating through all the interactive elements you would have on a website.
Got it. So this comes for free. So this is basically just a browser feature that looks for interactive things on the page and it puts this outline on them and that's it. And everyone gets that already, so we're done, right? And what else do we have to do?
Well, if we look at here, where we talked a bit about the contrast issues.
That was a leading question if I've ever heard one.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
But as you can see, as I'm kind of focused on this portfolio, if you can even see clearly, the outline starts to disappear.
Right.
And that goes against the contrast issue we were talking about in our last, or in the first part here.
Yeah, it's hard to tell what's focused.
Yeah. So even on the logo, that almost looks like it would be part of the logo right now, in a way, right? So to make it much clearer, it's cool because it is a style on the web page, and it can be affected by CSS.
Great. So what does that look like?
Do that. I'm just gonna try some in here. So this is what the styling will look like. So it's just, pretty much two pieces, actually a single piece of CSS code here, which is this outline.
Okay, so we got an outline property there.
Yep. And then we're using the pseudo classes focus on each of these interactive elements. So a button, an A tag, input tags, all these tags will have, when it's focused upon, it'll have this outline.
Okay.
And then this outline offset is just kind of a padding between the content and the outline.
Okay.
And this, as you can see here, it's kind of a bright neon green. So it will show up nice and clear on this orange
Can't
background.
miss that.
No, it's bright neon green right in your face. Now, as you noticed before, that blue showed up clearer, but now it's a bit more kind of faded on this drop-down menu. So, it's a style, so we can affect the focus outline however we want. So we can even be specific for the submenu here. So I'm just doing similar thing on the A tags here on focus. I'm making the outline red here, giving it a solid border. That would be 2 pixels there in rems. And now, when I navigate down to the submenu, it's a much clearer contrast between the outline and the background.
Which kind of makes sense. The fact that the initial heading is this dark blue, the one below it is the submenu is a light blue, and so you can play around with styles. And I've seen. So this is great, and I've seen designers kind of take advantage of this, and you can do other things with styling. You could add like a dash border or a dotted border I've seen folks kind of riff off of, like if they have a color theme on their website, they can, if you've got primarily orange and blue, you can kind of play around with that. So it's actually a way to have a little bit of fun and add some design styles as well as being more accessible. So it's kind of a two for one.
Yeah, it's just, it adds another layer of interactivity to your website.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I'm liking it. So, wow, we're 50% of the way through. What else we got down?
All right, so what else do we got? Well, we got something here where, okay, now I'm, I have this outline here, but now I'm having an issue because I want to get to the footer, but now I got to tab through all these elements just to get to the footer, to the first interactive element, right? And if I want to go back, I got to tab all the way back.
Yeah, and this is actually a pretty short page, right? I mean, if this was, I've seen web pages that are 3 times as long, so this is okay.
It's 3 times as much content as well. So imagine trying to navigate through that. So, yes, very much so. So I'm going to switch over here.
I feel like you're going to magically solve this issue.
So before I get into the code, I just want to show you. So
okay,
as we mentioned before, the skip navigational links are these little links now at the top of the page.
Okay.
And as you can read it here, it says skip to main navigation, skip to content, skip to footer. So now when I click on it, I'm in the footer. And I just skipped over all this other content, all the header, all the main content, and I don't have to, tab through everything.
That's awesome. So wait, you gotta walk. So can you go back to the top there? So I just want to make sure I'm understanding how this is cool. So you're pressing tab to access it, and then you press enter or return to commit or to actually do the thing.
Yeah, to trigger these. So right now these are A tags.
Yep.
So here, let's have a look at the code. So right now they're A tags, and similar to anchor links, they reference an ID in here. And when you click on it, it'll focus on that ID. You could also use JavaScript and have buttons in place of it.
Okay.
With A tags, if you noticed, there's this hashtag footer. If you don't want that, you can switch over to the buttons here.
Okay.
And with a little JavaScript help, we can just get rid of the footer here. And now when we click on it, it doesn't have the little hashtag, and now I'm in the content here. It landed on the H1. So if you remember, I mentioned before with outlines are mainly for interactive elements, but I can focus on the H1 with this button. But with the main navigation here, I can click on that and focus on the navigation there.
Cool. So again, in many ways, the skip links pattern, I guess you call it, is kind of a one way to think of it is like a mini navigation, or we've used the term like index, right?
Yeah,
so there's
you can think of it as like an index for a book page, and that's exactly what the indexes do, right? You look through the index, you're like, okay, I'm looking for this particular topic. You skip all the pages and go to that one page. This essentially becomes the index for your website.
And this is kind of a convention, right? So folks people are expecting this to be available on sites. And
that's correct.
Can we mention just real quickly too, and because we were talking before the recording about how we have these different categories of accessibility, and there's A, there's AA, and there's AAA. And you had mentioned something which I think you had recently discovered, which is what?
For something like the skip navigational links we just talked about, it's actually a single A, which is the fundamental properties of a website you need to have to make your website accessible. And it's going back to the whole subjectivity of the guidelines. It's the best interpretation of one of the guidelines where it says a user should be able to skip over blocks of content, and this does that perfectly. It's at the top. It's the first thing they'll hit when they enter the website using a keyboard. And it's, they can navigate quickly, maybe even quicker than some mouse users, to get to the bottom of the page or wherever else they want.
Nice. And just one quick question too. So we take a quick look at the CSS, because I'm curious, like why do those buttons not show up by default? Like, what's hiding them?
So what's hiding them is similar to what we talked about in the first part,
Okay.
where you have this SR only CSS code, which doesn't, it doesn't hide it. It's not a display none.
Right.
All it does is actually shrinks the content area of the HTML element, makes it only 1 by 1 pixels. So you got to hide 1 pixel, width 1 pixel, and it hides it. So I took this concept here, and for these skip links, use the same concept where it's just width and height of this is 1 pixel is just represented in rems, and we have an overflow where it's hidden, so it doesn't bleed out of the the border, the box of content here. And then only on focus do we reset the CSS properties to their default values. So it, essentially shows everything. The overflow is natural, what it was before. The width is whatever content is there. We got some other stylings of background color, some positioning stylings. And so whenever these skip links, buttons, or A tags get focused upon, they reveal themselves at the top of the page.
We'll put a link to some recommended tutorials or references to this skip link code, and then you can go ahead and apply it for yourself. So we'll put that in the resources section here or the description area for the video. So, man, we are cruising. This is like 3/4 of the way, 75%, if my math checks out.
Sounds about right to me.
Cool.
All right, so now on to the last topic here is dealing with these drop downs. So as you probably notice, as I keep tabbing through this website, I keep hitting the navigation here, which every time, actually, sorry, it's a little preview of what the solution is there. So, as I kind of tab through everything here, I keep hitting this drop-down menu. And I was like, I just want to get to this contact button right away, but I got to, traverse through all these sub-menus first.
Right, so you're basically like forcing someone to take the long way around.
Yeah, and, it shows up on hover over. But, maybe some touch devices, they might not register a hover over properly, right? So imagine, trying to get to this sub-navigation menu on a touch device.
Right, and this is just, this is just one menu and out of 4, but there are quite a lot of scenarios and a lot of websites who have these sub-menus and even like sub-menus, right? I've seen drop-down menus that go like 3 fathoms deep. And so you really should give people a solution.
Yeah, and I've seen drop-down menus which span the entire width of the website as well, so it's quite large.
Yep.
So as you kind of got a sneak peek before, now as I tab through, notice that I'm not hitting the sub-menu anymore. And I've added a little indicator that, hey, this is a sub-navigation as well now. There's something that's going to appear. So now when I'm on this this link here, now when I click on it, now I reveal the submenu. So it's now using a click interaction to show it or hide it. So if I go back, I can click on it and make it disappear. I can continue on. Right now, you might think that I remove the hover over, but with JavaScript, I actually have that functionality as well. So people using a keyboard or a mouse or a touch device interaction, they can all easily access the submenu.
Nice. So basically, we're giving them a more intuitive behavior and a convenience factor, right?
Yeah.
Because just to put ourselves in the mindset of someone who has a screen reader, if I understand this correctly, you could go from about to resume to portfolio. It would read all those out, and then you would go to contact. And then in our previous version, you would be about, resume, portfolio, and then section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, section 5, and then contact. So this is really, really super helpful for anyone.
And a lot of UX designers keep thinking about how to make features, how to get to a feature with less clicks, right? How do you do a feature with less clicks? With this kind of tabbing through content and interactivity, you can always think, well, how many tabs does it take to get to a particular content, a particular button, right? What's the fastest way to get through this content? So you can almost akin to that. And we eliminated, how many was that? Like, I think 6 clicks through just getting through the navigation here.
Yeah, and also we should take a larger step back and just say, what you've been doing in this tip and the one previous to this, and in many cases, a great way to evaluate accessibility is to not use a mouse, right?
Yeah.
Is to just find out what it feels like using these tab keys and these conventions. And again, our theory is if we could get the CEO of every website in the world, or let's just say the Fortune 500, to sit down in front of their website and be forced to use the keyboard, I suspect we would have a lot more accessible websites 6 months after that.
Definitely. Like, just tell them, like, here, use a tab key, try to navigate through the site. Good luck.
So yeah, see what you learn. Now, can we before we wrap up, can we just take a quick look at the so what is the CSS for that portfolio button?
So the code here. So I'm in Angular here, but I mean it all boils down to JavaScript. And I converted, because it's no longer a link. It's now a button.
Okay, so that's the first thing. You changed it. You changed it to a button.
Yep, because it's no longer a link. It's not going anywhere.
Right.
It's revealing something.
Yep.
So now I've converted to a button, and on the click event, I just show or hide this element essentially. And I have a variable here saying it should show or hide. And also on the list tag here, this is the mouse interactions, right? So I didn't forget about that. But instead of having it, kind of all of these interactions all over the place, I was just like, okay, well, I'm using JavaScript anyways for my interactions. Let's just keep it all in JavaScript. So I used the mouse enter and the mouse leave events and just showed it and hid it accordingly. So that's how we can keep this kind of interaction while we also have this toggling interaction using keywords. And this is the core fundamental concept of accessibility, in that a user can use whatever interactions they want with a website. They can use a touch screen, mouse, keyboard, and they can all access this content the same way. They're all able to access it, regardless of whatever device they're using.
It seems like a pretty good prescription for just improving your website in general, right? And there's a lot of benefits. Wow, this was cool. So I think we just nailed all 4 of these, correct?
Yeah, I mean, and these are a really good kind of starting point for any website to kind of go through just even these 4 points and just say, hey, do we at least have these down pat?
Right.
Then from there, we keep going. So
right. So I would say so just to kind of review and summarize, in our part 1, there's a whole series of automated tests that you can do fairly quickly, and that will show you kind of some of the easier low-hanging fruit things that are obvious, or at the very least are relatively black and white about where you should be fixing and so forth. And then we get to this manual testing, which is really about like, okay, sit down, use your experience, use some of these best guidelines, and address the issues that you can.
Yeah, use your keyboard, go through your site, and see what feels difficult to use.
You've said it. I could not have said it better myself. So, well, thank you so much, Vanu. This was amazing, and I can't wait till we do another one of these. And thanks, everyone, for watching. And be sure to let us know what else you might want to see down the road, and we'd be happy to oblige. And
awesome.
That's it. With that, we will bid you adieu.
Cool.
Take care.
Thank you.